The basement proved to be a wide open and largely empty room, with two walls lined with mirrors forming an L shape of mirrors and an X shape of reflections. You couldn't see the closet, let alone the room you had been assigned. You walked to the center of the room and stopped, look around, then wait. Impa approached the center of the dojo beside you, turned to face the mirrors on one wall, and walked straight forward. She slid a mirror aside, revealing a modest room. Bed, light switch for the ceiling light, small dresser topped with a small TV, Blu-ray player, consoles, and Nintendo games, and enough empty space to stretch in all directions. You walk toward the room. Impa passes you and returns to the center of the dojo to wait. After inspecting things briefly, you approach Impa, who spoke again as you neared. From the center of the room, approach the mirrors. There lies the closet or your room, depending on which wall you choose. And pointed to the other mirrored wall. You took the implied instruction and walked in that direction, to the wall. There you find a sliding mirror concealed another hidden space. The closet was found. 2 log dummies gently roll out when you open it. Impa approached the supply closet. Before we begin, allow me to explain how to best utilize your equipment, she said, putting the dummies back and closing the mirrored door. Young as you are, I cannot expect you to have ample strength enough to carry everything expected of a hero. So listen closely. You would have no trouble at all carrying the wooden training sword and shield, but if you were to attempt to take on a full-size sword or shield, you would require both arms just to use one or the other. Additionally, you have that useful satchel, which can only carry a limited amount of weight, much less space. The legendary weapons the goddesses crafted will not at all fit in such a small space. If you have to leave anything behind in your journeys, know that monsters will hunt for your weapons and relics to return them to guarded treasure chests and booby-trapped dungeons. Ganon's minions have grown increasingly vigilant over the centuries, staring every last relic and mystical weapon. She paused and inspected your newly equipped weapons, making sure you had a firm grip. Which is why I must train you just as vigilantly, she shouted as she jumped back and revealed a pair of wooden weapons of her own, as if out of nowhere. I will not go easy on you, child. This is your only example. Next, I will use it against you. Hold your sword like so. She held her dagger, sword-like, in her right hand, and prepared a stance. And your shield like this, shaking her left arm to prompt the shield's poised position. When you strike, you have 4 basic attacks, she said, exemplifying each one as she explained it. Cutting vertically, slashing horizontally, stabbing, and the technique I used to subdue the riffraff in the alley, the hilt strike. You can also utilize your shield to accomplish the same stunning blow as your hilt. Now you try. You clumsily swing the sword in your right hand and nearly drop it. Setting it down, you trade the shield and pick the sword up with your left hand. This time you cut through the air with sturdy precision. Vertical cuts, horizontal slashes, stabs, and blunt strikes. When you'd showed Impa that you could do what she had showed you, without warning, she shot at you with her wooden daggers out for a quick cut. You barely dodge it by rolling aside, but couldn't resist her follow-up from behind while exiting the roll. Rather than striking, Impa tapped you with a dagger before sheathing both, then retrieved a shield from the closet. You understand the basics well enough to practice alone while Zelda and I tend to the park downtown. I will show you how to block next. She raised the shield in front of herself and instructed you to stab at her. You did so, and she blocked it with her shield. You have a strong strike. This shield would not withstand 10 of your blows. Just as your shield would break if it received damage past its threshold, so too will your sword after enough strikes. A blocked strike will damage it even more. The wooden targets are sturdier than your sword and can take more blows than a wooden sword can deliver, because they act like a wooden shield block. I must prepare dinner for you and Zelda. I won't usually ask this, but try to break your sword at least once while I am upstairs. She reaffirmed her orders and took a posture of authority. So that I know you have endurance enough to last in a fight, outlast your sword. She returned her wooden daggers and shield to the closet and retrieved 2 wooden dolls, bowed politely, then went about up the stairs. You drag 3 dummies into the middle of the room, one at a time, and proceed to cut and slash them as hard as you could. You swing and swing, knocked one over, then slashed the next, swinging harder and harder. You lunge in for a stab and drop the sword upon impact. A short but intense burst of energy. You sit down for a moment to catch your breath and wave the pain out of your hand, feeling overwhelmed. After a few seconds, you picked up the sword, right the fallen wooden dummy, and retreat several paces. Taking a deep breath, you bow to the wooden target and ran at it as Impa had run at you. You slashed the target and spun around to cut it, stepping back into the second target and smashing your hilt against it from behind, then turned and slashed the second target, successfully shattering the training sword for the first time. You feel a strong sense of pride. Breathing heavily, you wipe your brow and smile to the untouched dummy and yourself. Or to yourself, you thought. Zelda smiled as well, silently watching from the bottom of the stairs, just barely out of sight. You were short of breath and just stood there, internally admiring your success as she approached quietly from behind you. "Oh, you